Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie at Kimberlin Coaching, where we help strong women flourish after major life transitions. We are continuing in our series on energy blocks. You remember that we started off with outer energy blocks, and those are things outside of us that may stop us or hinder us. And sometimes we can actually change those blocks, and other times we just have to change our attitude about them. And then we started in on the inner blocks, and the inner blocks were first we talked about limiting beliefs, which remember are just ideas and thoughts that we have from the world around us that we've never challenged to say, are these true or not? Last week we talked about interpretation, which is when we make a story in our head about something when we don't have enough information. Today we're going to talk about assumption. Have you ever had any of these kind of thoughts? So I interviewed for a job last year and it did not turn out well, and so I don't want to try it again. Or I dated a couple of guys a couple years ago and they broke up with me and it was just terrible and very painful, and I just don't want to try it again. Or a friend of mine got diagnosed with cancer and she had just a terrible time and she nearly died from it, and I just got diagnosed with cancer and I just know that is what's going to happen to me. Or when I tried to reach out to some new people at the networking activity that I went to, they just ignored me. I don't want to try it again. These thoughts come from events that happened in your past, and that event did not go well, and now we're afraid that they're going to happen again. This is called assumption. Assumption is a belief that something that happened in the past that went badly is going to automatically happen again today. Assumptions are more personal than limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs you've just kind of gotten somewhere. Interpretation is a little more personal because it's a story you've told yourself. Assumptions are even more personal, more inner focused, because this comes from your actual personal life, from your past experience. They hit closer to home because you can say, well, I lived that. They hold you back because if you say from past experience, I know that this is going to happen such and such way today, you failed before you even tried. Or if you decide to go ahead with trying, you go with a lower level of energy. You don't go with a powerful, confident way of living and attacking this, and so you might go in a counterproductive direction. If you hold on to your assumptions, you limit yourself to all kind of possibilities are out there in the world. So let's think of someone. Let's say this lady has lost her job and she's interviewing. She's interviewed for several jobs, and so far she's not been selected for either one of those. So if she makes an assumption and she decides, I did not get those two jobs that I interviewed, I must not interview well, that assumption is going to stop her and slow her down in her goal to get a job. She might stop interviewing for jobs at all, or she might, when she goes into the interview, she's going to go with this low-level catabolic energy we've described before, with fear, lack of confidence, negativity, and she might create that getting rejected again because the way she has gone into the interview. Hanging on to that assumption keeps her from moving forward. So we want to challenge our assumptions. But this is more difficult than challenging limiting beliefs because, again, limiting beliefs kind of come from outside of you, and assumptions come from personal experience. But in that personal experience, we had a lot of emotion, we had a lot of energy, we were much more involved in that. And so it is harder to let it go. So the main question we want to ask ourselves is, just because it happened this way in the past, how true is it, and why must it happen again? Just because it happened before that way, why does that mean it has to happen that way now? If you can answer that question to yourself, the answer is no, it doesn't have to happen again. Then it opens you up to a whole world of possibilities for moving forward and living your life more joyfully and with more excitement and enthusiasm. So another way to challenge your assumptions is look at a past situation where you did this well. Like our woman that was interviewing, she can look back and say, well, you know, there were some times in the past that I interviewed and I got the job. So I did it well. I communicated well. Another way to look at it is there a situation in the past that's not really like this one, but again, you were able to perform successfully. So then you can identify what you did in the past to allow you to do this well, and you can tap into those strengths. So in this process, you're going to ask yourself 4 questions. First, you're going to say, what worked well then? Then you're going to say, why was it working well? What strengths did you have when you did this? And number 4, how can you take those strengths and apply them in the new situation? So another way to challenge your assumptions is to put a positive spin on them. Since the future hasn't happened yet, why not use your assumption in a positive way that serves you instead of a way that holds you back? Instead of saying, I've tried and failed before, so I know I'm going to fail again today, why not say, though I've tried and failed, I'm much stronger now, I know much more now, I've learned, things have changed, and I'm perfectly capable of winning this time. You could even be like Michael Jordan, who said, I have failed many times, and that is why I am a winner. So pull out your things I haven't achieved yet list. I hope you remember that, and hopefully you've made one by now. If you haven't, whenever you want to, make up a list of things you have not achieved. Look on that list and see which items on the list may have happened, may be on the list because of assumptions that you made, and then use the processes I listed earlier to challenge those assumptions. How would your performance be different without those energy draining assumptions? Record your responses and your experiences in your journal. So this week, continue to look around you. Notice things. Notice yourself. Notice when you are presenting or living in that catabolic energy we've described earlier, that negative, draining, tiring energy that is appropriate at times but doesn't make you feel very good. Notice when you're living in the anabolic or the building up kind of energy and you're living positively. Now remember that all the energy levels are fine, but some make you feel better than others, and we just want to be aware of what we're feeling and thinking, and if it's not serving us, then we want to move forward. And we want to be responding, we want to be living out of choice, not reacting out of, or responding out of unconscious fears or from these energy blocks we've talked about. So again, notice, are you reacting and living because of a limited belief? A belief that you just have never even asked yourself, is this actually true? Are you reacting out of an interpretation? You're writing yourself a story in your head about the situation that you don't actually have any information about? Are you living under an assumption? Are you responding from an assumption that because things happened a certain way in the past, they're going to happen the same way now? When you notice these things and challenge them, you can live freely and joyfully without being bound by the thoughts and the beliefs that hold you down. If you feel like you need some help doing this, consider hiring me as your coach. Go to my website, KimberlynCoaching.com. Fill out the form at the bottom of the Work With Me page, and I will contact you and we can have a conversation and decide where to go from there. Meanwhile, I hope you learned something good today, and I hope you have a great week.